Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. I welcome you all to today's session of the daily quiz. Before we begin taking up the questions from today's Indian Express newspaper, a quick reminder, in case you have any problem in your UPSC preparation journey and want help of an expert, all that you need to do is click on the link of the Google form given in the description of the video, and our experts will get in touch with you to make sure that your UPSC preparation journey is extremely smooth. On that note, let's begin with the first question of today's daily quiz session. Question number 1 is on your screen. Consider the following statements with regards to the International Court of Justice or ICJ. Number 1. Unlike the 6 principal organs of the UN, it is the only one not located in New York, US. Second, the court comprises of 15 judges who are elected for terms of office of 9 years by the UN General Assembly and the Security Council. These organs vote simultaneously but separately. So they vote at the same time but not together. Third, its official languages are English and Mandarin. Which of these given statements or how many of these are correct? Now the reason why we are asking this is, you should all know, South Africa has actually gone to this court against Israel, saying that they are committing genocide, especially in the Gaza area. That's why it is on the front page of today's Indian Express newspaper. The first and the second statements are correct. The ICJ, unlike the other principal organs of the UN, is not in New York. It is at the Hague Palace in the Netherlands. Second statement also is true. The third one is wrong. There are 2 official languages of the court, but it is English and French. These are the 2 official languages. Thus the answer here is B. Any 2 of these are correct. As you can see here, the International Court of Justice has begun hearing South Africa's case that it has introduced against Israel, saying that they are committing genocide and the international community must step in to stop what is happening in Gaza and also fix responsibility from the part of Israel. Moving on to the second question. Consider the following statements with regards to cervical cancer. Number 1. India contributes the largest share of the global cervical cancer burden, nearly 1 in every 4 deaths globally due to cervical cancer. Second, almost all cervical cancer cases, close to 99%, are linked to infection with high-risk HPV. HPV here stands for human papilloma virus, an extremely common virus transmitted through sexual contact. Third, cervical cancer originates in the cervix, that is the lower part of the uterus. How many of these given statements are correct? Of these 3 statements, all of these are absolutely correct. The reason why we are discussing this is that the government of India, although a bit delayed, but has now started to roll out the vaccine for this cervical cancer, which is a very, very big news for all the women across the entire country, because India, as you can see here, has the largest load of these diseases in the entire world. As you can see, government is all set to roll out this vaccine to fight against cervical cancer. This vaccine will be rolled out especially for girls in the age of 9 to 14 years. There are 3 separate phases in which it will be rolled out in 3 years. Now it is important for the vaccine to be provided before their first sexual intercourse. That is why, as you can see, it is starting the distribution from a very young age. Next, question number 3. Consider the following statements with regards to Swachh Survekshan awards. Number 1. The Union Housing and Urban Affairs Ministry presents the awards which began as a part of Swachh Bharat mission. Second, the methodology for measuring cleanliness rests on 2 main criteria: citizen feedback and field assessment. Third, ever since the awards began in 2016, Indore has consistently been at the top of the rankings. How many of these are correct? Now, as you know, the recent rankings came out, Indore once again being at the top of the list. But was it always at the top? No. The awards began in 2016. In the first year, at least, Indore was in mid-20s, about 25th rank. So it worked extremely hard. The local administration made sure that they want to come at the top of the rankings, and that is why in the past few years they have been consistently at the top, but that was not always the case. First is correct. It is the Union Housing and Urban Affairs Ministry that presents the award, and the second is also correct. Apart from having assessment on the field, what changes have occurred, citizens' feedback is also taken into consideration to give the rankings. Thus, the answer here is B. Any 2 of these 3 are correct. As you can see, Indore and Surat are the cleanest cities. Apart from that, state-wise, Maharashtra is the first amongst all the states. Apart from that, Chandigarh won the award for the city having the best safety features for sanitation workers. Varanasi was named as the cleanest Ganga town. So, from all the towns from which the Ganga river flows, Varanasi was at the top amongst them. Next, question number 4. Consider the following statements with regards to generalized system of preferences. Number 1. It is the largest and oldest US trade preference program designed to promote economic development by allowing duty-free entry for thousands of products from designated beneficiary countries. Second, it is an umbrella that comprises the bulk of preferential schemes granted by industrialized nations to developing countries. And third, it involves reduced most favored nation status tariffs or duty-free entry of eligible products exported by beneficiary countries to the markets of donor countries. Which of these are correct? Now, as you know, GSP was a lot in the news a few years back. Under this particular mechanism, the US had offered that certain products from developing countries such as India, when they enter the US promised that we will impose lower tax brackets so that your product becomes much more attractive for the buyers in the US. India also used to get advantage out of it. When Donald Trump was the president, however, he removed India from this list. The reason was he was demanding that India should also give certain preferential treatment to the American goods coming to India, like Harley Davidson bikes, etc., which India did not agree to, as a result of which India was moved out of the GSP. The reason why it is in the news is that the two sides, India and the US, are again negotiating how India can be a part of the program all over again. That's why it is in the news, and all these three given statements are true. This is what GSP is, this is what is done, and it's not just the US. A lot of developed nations have this program under which they give priority and they give a boost to the products coming in from the least developed countries and the developing countries by offering them lower tax brackets. As you can see here, India-US trade policy meeting starts today, and GSP would be at the topmost agenda from the Indian side at least. Next is the previous year question from 2013 from Modern History. The people of India agitated against the arrival of Simon Commission because, first, Indians never wanted the review of the working of the Act of 1919, no. Simon Commission recommended abolition of diarchy in the provinces, no. There was no Indian member in the commission, yes. This was a primary reason why the Indians were not happy with the Simon Commission. The interesting part is, if you look at the findings of the Simon Commission, they were not anti-Indians per se. They were in support of a lot of demands being made by the Indian leaders. But at the time of their arrival, the Simon Commission faced a lot of protests. As you know, as a reaction to that protest, there was a lathi charge. In that lathi charge, Lala Lajpat Rai lost his life a few months later on because he could not recover from that attack. This is why answer here to this question is C. This was the Simon Commission of 1928. Next, we have a fact of the day, and today we want to discuss an important topic from Indian polity: split in the political parties. Why is it in the news? As you know, in Maharashtra, Shiv Sena, before the NCP, Shiv Sena had a split, and there is still a case of both the factions, faction led by Chief Minister Eknath Shinde and faction led by Uddhav Thackeray, claiming that they are the real Shiv Sena. Now, it was the turn of the Speaker of the Assembly to decide in the House which faction will be considered as a real Shiv Sena. And as you know, it was a faction led by Eknath Shinde that was considered as a real Shiv Sena. There was no surprise because the Speaker belonged to that party itself. So there was no surprise as such. Now, the question here is, what was the Speaker deciding? How is it that the Speaker came to his particular decision? So basically, it was the Supreme Court that had said that the Speaker has to decide whoever is the real Shiv Sena, not blindly because he belongs to one of the groups, but on the basis of facts, on the basis of how many members of the Assembly belong to which of the two groups. Now, the Speaker analyzed three factors. First, the 1999 constitution of the party itself. So Shiv Sena, like every other party, has their own constitution. So this was analyzed, number one. Second, the leadership structure of the party. And third, the legislative party majority. That is, on which side of the two there is a majority of the members who have been elected. On all these reasons, the Speaker said that the faction led by Chief Minister Eknath Shinde has to be the real Shiv Sena. Now, obviously, the other faction is not happy about it. They've already said that we will go ahead and appeal. Now, as you know, this was a case where more than 2/3 of the members of the party resigned and they formed another faction. That is why the anti-defection law also did not apply in this case. This is why it's an interesting case study of how the anti-defection law works and how the split in the political parties work in India. This brings us to the end of today's session of the daily quiz. Again, reminding you, the Google form, its link is in the description of the video. Fill that up with all your details to get expert help from our counselors. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day ahead. Bye-bye. Jai Hind.